Let's just play that video as the podcast.
But it's not ready.
Marcus, are you using a different lens? Tell us about your new setup. That's amazing.
Why, yes, Adam. Yes, I am. Well, it's not a new lens. It's actually, I went back to the original lens that came with the camera, which is the 16 to 55.
Remind us what camera you're using.
Fujifilm X-T4. I did a recording setup. Yeah. I did a recording setup downstairs in a non-treated room for a future video that's coming out that you already mentioned. And I had to move things back up. And as I moved things back up, I just kind of shifted things around a little bit. So I got a little wider shot.
Why'd you change it? Wider shot?
I wanted to have you closer to me because I had a longer lens and my teleprompter screen was like way over there. And now I can reach out and touch you. And I have autofocus.
With consent.
The autofocus.
With consent.
The autofocus that's nice.
Yes.
That's nice. It's looking mighty fine. Hi, Molly.
What up, Dell? I like that branded clothing there, Marcus.
That's
Killing
a sweet shirt.
This is my new logo. I just designed it.
Nice.
Sweet.
Yeah. For my new member platform that we talked about a few weeks ago.
It's awesome.
Oh, snap.
It's getting there.
Sorry, I was
Rainbow colors.
Sorry, I was late, guys. I was
It's all good.
moving my.
Whenever you're here is right on time.
That's exactly
I had to move my bong out of the shot. It took longer.
She's not kidding people.
Yeah. Just kidding.
What's new? What's happening? What's happening, podcast people?
You know, I had an epiphany this week, y'all.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah?
Uh-oh.
Another one?
Strap in for this one.
Yeah, seriously. But no, seriously. You know, I was thinking about the podcast club, and I was thinking about, what are we really doing, and what value am I bringing, right? You know, I mean, it's always fun to talk shit about Libsyn, but like I feel like that's low hanging fruit. You know what I mean? And eventually, if it hasn't already happened, I'm never going to get a speaking gig in this fucking industry again based off all the shit I've talked. But at the end of the day, I don't really I want everybody to be successful. I don't really care. They're just low hanging fruit and whatever. And you know what? I'm glad people are starting podcasts and all of that. But like, I don't really care about the new podcasts, and I don't really care about who Spotify bought. I don't really care about any of that stuff, and some of it is fun, but like a lot of it is not, it's just not really what I care about. And it's not the value that I bring. Right. And I started really thinking about like, where do I want to make an impact in this industry? And it's like helping people to make more money running podcast companies, especially women. And so I just want to bring more value to the table. I'm still going to eat mushrooms and joke about all of that. Don't you worry. Okay. But like, yeah, man, I want people to be excited about this show, and I want women to feel like I'm speaking to them about some of these issues, and also talk about gear, and also talk about editing and all of that. But I think that my real value on this podcast is not pulling headlines from like the dipshit men in this industry who just keep breaking laws, it's like talking about Trump, right? It's like people are upset about Trump like 3 years in. You're like, really? You're shocked at anything? Like, let's talk about anything else, anything else, right? So
let's do it.
Right? So, I feel like the first thing I want to open with is fuck imposter syndrome.
What is that? Lay it on me.
It's not real.
Imposter syndrome is not real?
Imposter syndrome? What is this? What is imposter syndrome?
Okay,
and why is it not real?
Imposter syndrome is the Kaiser Sose of like personal development. It's like, the greatest trick the devil ever played was convincing the world he didn't exist. It's like some sort of mind fuck like that. I'm not really good at that analogy. I'll tune that up for a later episode. But the point is, imposter syndrome is this idea that like you're not good enough. Like, and a lot of people have this. You find tremendous success and you're like, I don't deserve this. I'm a fraud, whatever. But it's increasingly gained traction in women-centered events, and especially when speaking to women. And I've just been really angry about imposter syndrome for a long time because it's like I don't want to talk about it. And I did a pretty poor job of explaining why I didn't want to talk about it, right? I kept saying, hey, when I go to a women's event or any event, I don't want to see half of the presentations are talking about imposter syndrome. And that's the reality of it, And so, men don't go to conferences and talk about their feelings. Like they're going to conferences and figuring out how to make money, how to network, get some new contacts, right? But women's events are always focused around this. And it seems to be like planting it more in like a women's issue kind of thing. And I was sent this article by Caroline Phillips, who runs the National Cannabis Festival. And she sent me this article and it blew my mind. So we're going to put it in the show notes, but it's written by 2 women of color. And they're saying like imposter syndrome doesn't exist because it assumes that there's a problem with the person and not the environment. And so if you're a person of color, you're a woman, you don't see a whole lot of examples of success of people who look like you. That's why it's so important with that woman who just ran that race today in her long hair and her long nails, just breaking all records and barriers and just being herself. Like when you see people who look like you win, then you don't ever feel like that's not possible. So imposter syndrome is there's nothing wrong with you. It's the environment. There are not enough women in positions of leadership and power and authority. And there's not enough people of color in those same positions of authority and power, And so once we start seeing that, then we won't have those feelings of imposter syndrome. And so I just really want to challenge like any woman that's in this industry at all, whether you're a female editor, whether you're a podcast, whatever role you're playing in this industry, like stop feeling like there's something wrong with you or you have to be perfect or your feelings are special or unique. They're not. Like we all feel that way on some level, but it's not, there's nothing wrong with us. It's the environment. And so if you can put that shit aside for 5 minutes and just go be your best self and run that business and take that risk, then more women will be in positions of leadership and power and authority. And then you will employ other women who will then employ other women. And that's how we affect real change. And it is especially needed in the podcast industry because it's chock full of clear walkers, right? That's what I say on Facebook so I don't get banned again. Full of all these white men who have dominated so many industries for so many years. And all these articles that we talk about are evidence of that same fuckery. You know what I mean? And so I don't want to, we're not going to focus on that. We're just going to do it. And so if you own a podcast business, like go out there and do it. Whatever you're charging to edit podcasts, double it. Mm-hmm. You need me to email you next week and be like, yo, do you double your shit yet? I will. Like, stop undervaluing yourself. Stop thinking that you have to do stuff for free. Stop thinking that there's something wrong with you or you have imposter syndrome. Those are normal ass feelings. Just like you feel the butterflies in your stomach before you get on a roller coaster. Like your brain doesn't know the difference between fear and excitement. Like, don't let it win. Embrace it. Go for it. Be the change. Run your own business. Make more money, charge more money, and for fuck's sake, stop talking about imposter syndrome at women's events. If you organize women's events, stop, please. That's it, man. That's what I want to say today. That's where I'm at with it. Like,
I feel like you need to start like an incubator.
Preach!
Like, I feel like you need to like,
Yes.
I feel like you need to like get these people, like you need to get in front of these people.
I do, man. And I realized that this week. I'm like, I have this great platform in this podcast, and I love hanging out with you guys and we've had a lot of fun, but I'm like, what value am I really bringing? And like, this is what I really care about in the podcast industry. And like, I hope I get speaking engagements, but at the end of the day, I don't really give a shit about playing in the sandbox because the sandbox ain't for me. It's never been for me. Fuck a sandbox. I'll build my own, you know? So I just feel like, when I do public speaking or I get in front of some other women and I talk about these things, like I see, I do this a lot with women in that group. I give people an hour. Hey, show me your system. What are you doing? Charge more. I'm always jumping in the group. Charge more. 2021 is the year we stop feeling bad about making money. Fuck that shit, man. It's crazy, like how much we devalue ourselves and how much we count ourselves out, but it's constantly reinforced. And so I just want 2021 and 2022 to be the year we stop talking about imposter syndrome, especially in reference to women and people of color. Like, stop. You want to break that cycle? Hire more women and people of color. Period. So yeah, I mean, I'm building a course for this because I realize that, but like at the end of the day, like it's just, if one woman hears this, right? Like if one woman hears this episode and is empowered to charge more for editing the next podcast, like that is how the world becomes a better place.
Amen. I love this Molly that has shown up to the podcast club today, and I'm so glad. Yes. Yes, I am. Bring it every week. Let's do this. Let's do this.
I got you, man. I got so many of these things, man, because there's always somebody always somebody underbidding you. There's always somebody telling you got to charge. There's just so much bad advice out there, right? And
would it be faux pas to ask what someone's new out there trying to start their podcast business? What do they charge? What's doubling it? Like how do they not undervalue it? Like how do they get to let's dive into this. Like you want to bring these people value.
Yeah.
What the hell would they like? They do a service. How do they benchmark? How do they find out? Do you shop other people? Like how do you find, like in my world it's easy. I Google a product and see what everyone's selling for, and I know, okay, that's what it sells for. That's it. That's what I do.
Right.
In the services thing, it's a totally different thing. And yeah, you're right. And you provide an unbelievable service just on the surface, and then what you guys do goes deeper. So like, how do you evaluate and how do you assess what you're supposed to charge?
Well, I'm really glad that you asked that, Adam, because
That's what I'm here for.
I really think that we need to unionize our wages, right? Like, so I met with Tyrone from 202 Creates, right? And he's like, I got this side business going. People are hitting me up. What do I charge? And I told him $80 an hour. He was like, what? I'm like, $80 an hour, man. Like, that's a pretty standard rate for post-production.
Yep.
Like, you could pay a little less, you could pay a little more, but $80 is pretty vanilla. It's in the middle of the road, and you're paying for the experience that person is bringing to the table. And so, that's really the first question. So when I'm like asking women, like, well, what are you charging? And they give me a number. I'm like, well, what are you doing? And then how long does that take you? So let's add up those hours. Like, we got to reverse engineer some shit here. You know what I mean? Okay. So, well, if it's taking you 5 hours to do all of that work, so that's 5 times 80, but you're charging them $180 a month. I gotta ask you, why do you feel your time is invaluable, right? So the first thing that we have to do is we need to like self-unionize in a sense that like charge $80 an hour is norm. That's industry standard. From like you want to argue with me about it? Cool. Hit me up in the comments on YouTube. It'll get us more visibility. I don't care. That's like should be standard order of business. And so if you're spending 10 hours a month for a client, then that should be $800 and period, point blank. Because anytime you go in and you do some shit for preventing other women from being successful,
Yes.
I feel like you should publish just like a chart. Like you do these services. This is like benchmark. Like this is like anyone else got feedback. Like we can always update this chart, but like this is like the barometer on the industry. Like this is the going rate. Like I feel like that's what I see some chatter about, like the bands and stuff to say the same kind of thing. Like, oh, bands, like don't stop giving away gigs for $50 a gig. Like then no one's gonna get a gig and we're all gonna starve. Like we all got to maintain. But no one ever wants to say we charge this. Like just come out and say it. Like if you don't want anyone to, like, okay, cool. I have no idea. I'm new. I don't know.
100%.
I'm just $50. Like I want the gig. Like I don't know. Like establish it. Like that you're going to go somewhere. It's going to cost you whatever. Like you go certain places and it's just expected. So like I feel like you got to put it out there. That would be like immense value.
100%. And because there isn't like an industry standard. There isn't somebody just like normalizing everything, right? That's my new slogan, by the way. Normalize everything. But like, like we lived through a pandemic. If we can't normalize everything at this point, like what are we doing with our lives? But
hey, we normalize audio. Why don't we normalize the pricing too?
Exactly. Normalize pricing. But like self-unionize, right? And like stop undervalue. The other thing that so many people make a mistake on, right? Like, which you would never do, right? Like as a business who sells electronics or a restaurant, women will devalue their services and do shit for free or at a reduced rate because they're their first clients. All the time. Yeah, when I go to a brand new restaurant, not only is it not cheaper, but I might gotta wait for 3 weeks to get in that Mickey Flicky. Like, where is this assumption that because you're new at it, so I always joke and I say like channel like a mediocre white man and just pretend that anything is possible for you. You know what I mean? Just, never question that you belong there. You know,
Yes.
like it doesn't matter that you're new. Nobody knows that you're new. You're the only one that knows you're new. Shut the fuck up. Stop telling people you're new. Just do a good job. You know what I mean? Like you don't like that's not a thing. You don't need to. You don't. You know, musicians, same thing. Doing it
Yep.
for exposure. I'm getting some experience. No, like. No, you know, every once in a while there are opportunities that are great for exposure. You're like, I'm gonna do that. Like the Thanks Obama event that we did, Adam. That was bananas, right? Like those millions of people online. Like that was a no-brainer, right? But like, you know, not everything is, you know, you don't have to give stuff away for free. That's not real. I don't know who's telling women this, you know? And what's going to happen is that client that you take less money from, it's going to become your absolute worst nightmare. They are going to be the most demanding, the most unrealistic, and they are going to be vampires to your business, and they're going to make you hate your job. So you are doing no one any sort of benefit here by undervaluing yourself, you know? And so if I could just be that birdie on your shoulder, it's like, fuck that, double your rate, like every time.
I want to see a picture of this birdie just saying, fuck that.
Fuck that. But like, I think I have like a shitty version of it on my arm, actually. But like, yeah, man.
Tattoo that right there. Little bird says, fuck that.
Charge double.
Charge double on the other one.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck like, that, charge double.
But seriously, like, right? Like, do I need to be the voice in people's head? Like, I'm cool with that. Like, I'm totally cool with that. I just like, you know,
I want
this
you to
is
be
what
the
happens.
voice in my head. I know that.
Hey,
please
man.
be the voice
for
all of us.
Careful what you wish for, man. I'll be like, smoke more weed.
Well, let me ask you a question, because I feel like when it comes to the business universe, that there is this cultural thing, at least in the United States, where if a woman is confident and speaks directly with purpose, they're seen as a bitch.
For sure.
Right?
For
Whereas
sure.
if a guy does it, they're seen as a go-getter. How much of that plays into this whole, I guess I need to, you know, the apologetic, womanly demeanor thing, which I am with you. I am so sick of. My wife I follow her lead on our business. Like I know I'm a dude, but we need more women leading the way. And they need to knock off this whole inferiority complex thing that's going on.
Well, it's shoved down our throat. Like even when you go to a women's event where you're being empowered with other women, when half the conversation is about this thing that's like out of our control, it's like that's not it, man. You know what I mean? It's the environment is broken, not the person, and it just further instills there's something wrong with them. I mean, that's why vocal fry exists. That's why women raise the tone of their voice so they come across as less threatening. It's like the Animal Planet up in this piece, man. Like we've adapted ourselves in so many. We don't even have pockets, you know. Like we are so underserved. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy, you know. And I experienced that. I mean, there's plenty of people who I'm sure don't like me or I've intimidated or whatever. And then there's plenty of people who do. You guys like me even though I'm abrasive and ridiculous and, say dumb shit all the time.
One of the many reasons I love you.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I'm walking proof that you can be anything you want, right? And so, and maybe that's what kind of speaks to people, right? Like you're not supposed to be overweight in America and a woman and confident. I'm like really breaking the mold with that, And so I'm like, yeah. What's up, y'all? Here I am. And so, no, it's real though. People are like baffled by me because like, you don't fit into that mold. We're constantly told to lower. Even my own mom constantly tells me like, you're too loud, you're too bossy. It's like, I mean, my own mother has constantly diminished those qualities in me. And I'm sure it's just because it was embedded into her and she's low key angry at the world, just like every other 60-plus-year-old white woman in America.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's systemic. It is systemic.
It's 100% systemic, right? And so the best way to break that is like, you can be grateful for your clients, but you don't have to be so grateful that you lower your prices for them, and you don't have to take abuse. And the worst thing about that situation is 9 times out of 10, it's a woman taking advantage of these women editors. Like that lady I mentioned a few weeks ago that was willing to pay $125 for like 4 episodes a month. And like,
oh my gosh.
Like for like $1,800 worth of work, she was willing to pay $140 a month. Like what? You know what I mean? And like got offended and then accused me of being aggressive when I was like, is this real? Like, like, is this actually happening? Like, why would you think this is acceptable? And then she went straight for me like, I'm aggressive and and I'm like, no, you're a predator.
Mm-hmm.
So me calling you out, me holding you accountable doesn't make me the aggressor,
Right.
you know? Right? So it happens even within the women's communities, right? So it's not all butterflies and rainbows, but like at some point, like we just have to stop because, you know, nobody's winning. We're not doing anybody favors. We're not empowering each other. We're not growing. We're not creating better businesses. When you spend all this money to go, you know, to whatever event, you know, and I'm not talking about She Podcast because She Podcast doesn't do a whole bunch of like. I don't want anybody to be confused. I mean, in general, like women's business networking events that I've gone to, like not podcast industry events, but any of those things, you're taking your time to go there, you're traveling possibly, and you get all these women in the room. And instead of telling them how to build effective systems, how to set up your booking, how to turn your company into an S Corp and raise capital to get seed money, how to charge your clients, like they're not talking about that. They're talking about how to overcome imposter syndrome for 6 hours of an 8-hour day. And so,
You should
you
do
know,
your
at
own
some
virtual
point,
conference.
it's just
Let's
me
do it.
yelling for like 4 hours.
No, you know the people to bring into it already. Like you already got the roster.
I mean, yeah, you know,
I
just
feel
to
like-
see more.
Like they need to hear that structure though. Like you're right. That's not. I never see any conference that has that lineup of these 30-minute blocks on this shit. Not like
Right.
editing tips and tricks and like it's the same shit at everything else. Like how to set up an S corp, how to raise money, how to like do business, how to be business person and actually make money so that you can take value from those other courses and actually deliver on it. So like just do the thing.
Just do right, exactly. Like how to charge customers and why you can't afford to build
How
people.
to invoice, how to make sure you get paid, how to like
Yeah.
do all the stuff. Like there's a lot that goes into it that like that's
I need
not
that.
the actual podcast part. There's the
Right.
business side of like once you get past actually like deciding you want to jump into the world, then you got to figure out the rest of the stuff.
Yeah.
Which is all business development, right? Like it's 100%, right? Like, you know, I had to tell a client today, he was like, send me an invoice. I'm like, we don't do invoicing. We're too small of a shop. And that's the truth. If you are a solopreneur with a freelancer or 2 or 7 under your belt or even solo, you cannot afford to invoice.
Yeah.
It is not an option for you. It is not one of the boxes you can check. It will cost you money every time you touch that file. And so for you to create an invoice, for you to get the job, for you then to put it into the system, for then you to follow up with that person when they haven't paid in 2 weeks, and then
Right.
follow up again. Now you have just touched that file 7 different times when all you could have done is created a booking link and somebody would have paid in advance and they wouldn't have batted an eye and had a problem with it and your work would have gone right into the system, except you just created 8 steps for yourself and now they haven't paid. So now you've created tension between you and the client. And the reality is if you're going to do a podcast, you need to be able to afford $5,000 to do it. So if you're working with somebody and they're paying you and they can't afford your little invoice every week, like fire them, move on. They're not the right client. If they can't, I charge my clients $8,000 in advance. I don't provide shit for them, but a paid invoice and codes to book their episodes. And then we do the work. And not one single of my client has ever taken issue with that, including the Department of Health, universities, you know, and government agencies who typically, historically, don't pay, you know, do 30 to 60 net.
Right.
No problem. But that's not how my shop works. So if you want to work with Heartcast Media, you got to click the link and put in your credit card, man. And
Yeah.
that's just it. That's it. We're too small of a shop. And so all these people are invoicing people and waiting for money. Like why are you doing that? Who told you to do that? And the sad part is there are women podcast coaches out there giving women this specifically horrible fucking advice to do exactly what I'm saying is terrible for business. There are women out there charging other women to tell them to do this. And so there's a gaggle of unhappy women, underpaid, undervalued, and who don't really understand how business works.
Can we talk about value? That is the kind of the buzzword in some of the other business entrepreneurial podcasts, that one of them, which I produced, the Two Bobs podcast, but Chris Doe, who he does like what you're talking about. He does it for graphic designers and
Right.
so what you're like, we need this for the audio space. We need it. And we need a woman to do it. We don't need another dude. Christo's Asian, so that's thumbs up.
He
but
gets
still
a pass.
dude.
He's cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Dudes of color.
Yeah.
They can come in with us. But
But
I'm gonna
the
get
whole
sued for this podcast one day for all this.
well, this is the other thing. Like for me, not being a woman, but still, especially for the background I have, being in Nashville, Tennessee, working in the Christian music industry, there is this whole thing of not being able to speak directly. Like you have to be diplomatic, and diplomatic means you let other people walk all over you,
Right.
and devalue not just what you're doing for them, but devalue you as a human being. So this to me goes beyond the whole imposter syndrome thing, because that's imposter syndrome. The people who are talking about it, it's the getting over your own issues of not being of value, of what you have. Every single human being has something to bring to the table. And we just all do. And so it's finding that thing that you have and being able to create value for someone else from your own experience, and being confident in whatever experience you do have. Even if you only have a year's worth of experience, you still got more experience than the kids in college right now,
Right.
But the value that your perspective brings, just who you are as a person, whether you're a young person, old person, woman, man, black, white, yellow, whatever, it doesn't matter. We all have some value to bring, and it's understanding that and using that self-empowerment when we communicate to not let people take advantage of us. And I'm with you. Like anybody, especially now, anybody gives me any hassle in any way. I fired a very lucrative client because his team of a lot of young people didn't know how to deal with my brashness and my directness.
Which is crazy because you're the nicest person I know.
Well, I can be a dick.
You should
And sometimes I
threaten
like
them.
to be.
Yeah.
But in
You're
that
like
situation,
Ned
I
Flanders,
was
and then when no one's looking, you're like, "Listen, motherfucker, I will cut you."
my poor wife has heard me yell at the computer monitor after getting an email so many times, Anyway, I have my own. We all have our own issues too that we're processing through.
Adam's liquid
Adam's
gold
perfect.
over there. Let me tell you, liquid gold. Although that's like a furniture polish. I'm pretty sure that's not the best reference, but solid gold, liquid gold. Anyway, yeah. I mean, well, that's the thing. Like, if you are not valuing yourself, right? Like,
Right.
if you're just like offering discounts when nobody's asking, you gotta rewind, which is why, another reason why you should have a booking link, because then you don't have to tell people your prices are listed on your website and they can either afford you or they
I was
can't.
just about to say it's a skill. It's like the same thing here. Like, the people in the know that you can call and you can say, hey, give me a better price on this thing. And in a lot of ways, like, okay, if another store is willing to do it, then you kind of got it too, because they can go buy the other thing. But like, if you are confident and you sell your value along with whatever product it is, whether it's a service or anything else, then you get the price you want for it.
Yep.
Right.
And like, look, like my whole store here, like, discount shopping, basically. Like, you come in here, you're going to get a deal. Like, and that was a big selling point, right? But it's hard to untrain that and say, no, like, yeah, like, we'll hook you up, but like, it's not going to be thousands of dollars cheaper. It will
Right.
be like a little bit cheaper, but like, because you value what we do, and that's worth something. That's a hard skill to learn. It's the easy road. It's like, I appreciate what you're saying, and it's important for people to hear that, like, hey, wake up. All you got to do is charge that first person double, and boom, the second one is easier.
No
you just
looking back.
You gotta prove to yourself that you can get it. It's the same as selling the first $10,000 podcast studio, or selling the first whatever. Like once you realize like when I started here, like selling a $10,000 microphone, I'd be like, it's $10,000. Sorry. Like, is that okay? I can do it like really cheap for you. Like I'll make it $9,000. Like no, like it's $10,000.
This is the price. Yeah.
But it's awesome. Like,
Yeah.
are you ready to drop that money and change your life? Hell yeah. Like that's the game. And once you get over that and realize like that's what shit is, it's
If you don't want to pay
$10,000,
$10,000, here's your Yeti. God bless you. Be on your way.
But you know, it's definitely there's a mental barrier to people saying anything's worth that much money. No matter, I mean, for you to get to $8,000 for a service, like you definitely stepped your way there. Like you didn't go from 0 to 60.
Right.
You went along these, but you're like, whoa, like that was too easy. And then you get to that point, you're like, okay, reel it back in maybe just a touch. Like that was maybe a little bit too much. But there's a salesmanship to a lot of this that's in any business you have to be the ultimate salesperson. Unless you are doing something for someone else that's doing the selling, but like to sell the services, you got to be. And when I get all these sales calls, I give them a really hard time if they don't know their shit. Like, don't waste my time if you can't. Don't bullshit me. Like, tell me what the hell I'm here for or not, because you just called me out of the blue. Like,
I do that with clients. If they expect me to come up with their topics, like if you don't have anything to say, why are you here? I'm not here to help you figure out what you want to talk about. I'm here to make you sound good.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, you know, major respect, but also like it takes practice to learn to be able to charge what you should.
Yes.
And I think that part of it is the unknown of like, I shopped other stores and be like, yo, what do you charge for this thing? Like, and if they charge the price I expected or they charge a little bit more, I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, I'm definitely going to charge this price and everybody else here just charge that price. Like, that's just what this is. Don't give this shit away.
Yeah.
So, you know, I still got to like play whack-a-mole and be like, okay, guys, like, okay, you can do the sale, but like, don't do that anymore. Because then the next guy says, oh yeah, this guy, he gives you this shit, you know, and then you get a reputation for being the cheap one.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not good either, right? Because perceived value is a thing,
yes,
right?
Thing.
And so you know, we're all humans. You're standing in the liquor store, you're looking at wine, like you're gonna assume that the $45 bottle of wine is better than the $8 bottle of wine, and
Close
it
your eyes.
probably isn't.
Yeah,
no,
it isn't.
Okay,
but you're right. It's marketing and perceived value. You got a good logo, you have a clean flow. You can't be a mess and charge a premium. Like you got to have your shit together. You got to have a process. You got to have like, and yes, I'd book my shit this way and boom, here's the invoice and there it is, pay it. Like if you said like, hey, can you like Venmo me and like no.
Right.
Like you got to have whether it's invoicing or whether it's booking.com or however you take your money,
recording,
you got to have it
whatever.
Clean and you got to be like ready to go on it. Here's my rates. Here's what I charge. Here's my line card. Thanks. Have a good day. Hit me up when you're ready. I'll send you a link and you can book it. It's got to be clean or it won't fly.
Yeah, and it applies to process too. It applies to production process too.
The whole every one of these, any service you provide, any piece of equipment you sell. Look, I wouldn't sell crap if it wasn't easy to check out. Like you can't put barriers to people wanting to do this, and you have to make it professional the whole way through.
Yep.
You can't be hodgepodge. You know, there's too many tools out there that make it easy to have that be an excuse anymore.
Yeah.
I don't care how small you are. Right. You can be small and you can skip some of this, you know, other back office bullshit if you have there's definitely a solution for it now, and it's probably banging and easy.
For sure, man, for sure. And I think that, you know, I'm a big fan of posting my rates. I think it prevents me from having bad sales calls because people find me on the internet, they set up a call with me. They look at my site, they see what my services are, they see what my rates are, they decide right then and there if that's something they can afford or not. When they call me, they just want to talk about how do all these services fit in with what they're trying to do, and are they crazy? Is this a good idea? Is this something that I can actually do for them? But they already know whether or not they can afford me, and so that eliminates that whole awkward moment of like, oh yeah, it's $2,500 setup and a lot of people think that that's a mistake, but They feel
No.
like you can't negotiate up, right? It boils down to being a good salesperson again. Just because it's $600 for the full Monty doesn't mean that if you're a law firm who's going to want us to hella edit this thing and add intros and like extra stuff, I can say, yeah, well, I think the full Monty, but with 2 hours of additional
Right, this is
production.
above
So
and beyond.
it's actually $880 an episode, not 600 like it says.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't mean you can't charge more,
Right.
right? And it also
Everything's
doesn't mean you can't
negotiable.
charge less. You can always be like, yo, you're cool. I'll give you the homie hookup. I'll do it for $5, whatever, right?
Yeah.
You can, but like this just eliminates people from getting into that, like, oh, I thought it was going to be $145 for, 4 episodes a month and like whatever the fuck that was,
And
like, and then you don't have to have those awkward conversations where you're saying what you want, because like, I feel like one of the most humiliating things in life is having to ask for money that's owed to you.
yes.
Yep.
That
I
is
was gonna say,
another.
asking for money is the hardest thing to do. It's
So
for anything.
This is another cultural thing that we need to get past. And this is something that actually the Two Bobs guys talked about as well. Talking about money should not be awkward. It's like, this is what things cost. Gas costs this price. Milk costs this price. My services cost this
No,
price.
cost this price.
My services, I charge $150 an hour. I
Right.
tell people openly, and I see all these people on the Facebook groups like being obscure about what they charge, and it's like, why? I charge
Why?
$150 an hour. Some people I charge $200 an hour. When I do coaching calls where I'm training someone how to do something, I charge $200 an hour. But when I'm doing
Right.
editing work, and I don't always base what I charge somebody just how long it takes me, because the value doesn't come from the time I'm spending doing something. The value comes from the 30 years of experience I bring to the fucking table.
Yeah.
That's
But
the value.
But I think that it does start with some sort of mathematical breakdown. Like, you're
Yes.
not going to charge less than this amount,
It's a threshold.
but you're probably going to charge more, right? And I
Yes.
think so many people go off of feeling,
Yes.
kind of like you're saying, but in the wrong direction. They go
Right.
off of feelings and undervalue themselves instead of going off of the feeling that, like, hey, this might take me 3 hours, but I'm going to really put my special sauce on this jammy jam, so I'm going to charge more because I'm going to oversee it. And
Right.
and people with people with money, like the people who are gonna want a podcast, like, I mean, I think one of the greatest misconceptions is this: if you're looking to start a podcast to support your business, like, you have a budget for it, period.
Yep.
And so if you're working with a client and they're doing a podcast for their business and they're telling you they can't afford it, get away from them immediately.
They
Get
are a bad
away from
business.
them. They can afford it. It's marketing. It's advertising. They're
Yep.
bullshitting you. They're
It's
taking
tax
advantage
write-off.
of you. Period. Point blank. They can afford it. They know exactly how much shit costs. They've paid for brand videos before. They know exactly how low of a rate you're charging them.
Mm-hmm.
You're not doing yourself any favors at all, because it also boils down to human nature. It's like the wine comparison. You're looking, you go to 3 different editors and you get rates, and one's charging double what the other 2 are. You're going to be curious what that other one is doing. You're going to want to hire the more expensive guy because you're going to assume that they're bringing more value to the table. So, I mean, there's just a million reasons as to why, right? Like, you shouldn't do that. But I mean, I agree, Adam. Like, it's a skill, and I'm passionate about it because I was terrible at it for a long time. I was the first one with One Love to say, oh, I don't need to make any money. I would
Right.
just volunteer that shit. Like, what the
Right.
fuck is
Yep.
wrong with you, dude?
Well, because
I-
the 3 of us, I feel like we love to help people to our own detriment. But now, like, we're all at points in our careers, like, no, it's time. I need to get paid now.
There's
I'll
ones that you
help
help.
you.
Like, there's always ones to help.
Yeah.
Like, there's
Yes.
a
Yeah.
place, there's a time and place for it, but it's not everybody, and there's a reason.
Right.
Right. There's a reason. I'm very cautious about giving shit away for free these days, because like people talk and it's like you end up being
Yeah.
being the free person. Like, no, like, I'm down to hook it up, but
Yep.
it's got to
when
be
I
for the right cause.
When I do something pro bono or a discount rate, I specify up front, this is half of what I normally charge, or this is X amount less because you're a nonprofit, because you're a friend, because blah, blah, blah. Just so you know, this is my normal rate, but I'm charging you this because of
Yeah.
X, Y, Z.
It's the toughest thing to do in all of it. The hardest
It really
thing to do.
is. It really is. It's funny. Like when I first started teaching the podcast class, I was like, It was free, the first bunch of them, really small, or like less information. Then it got bigger, and I started charging more. I started charging like $200. And then I got hit up for like corporate training, and I was like, it's $750. And they're like, okay, no problem. How about next Tuesday? I was like, oh, fuck. I definitely left some money on the table. They said yes way too quick.
Right.
So the next one I charged $1,500.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And
how about
no
next
problem.
Tuesday? I'm like, shit, I think I left more money on the table. But like, so I'm charging, $750 an hour for my services to go talk to a room full of people to tell them what I charge $200 an hour, or $100 an hour, whatever. Like, my point is, like, right, you can adapt and you can scale and you can charge more for the people that have it, like a corporation.
It's breaking the mold of that. You got it, that like your rate is your rate. Like your rate fluctuates. The more edits you get under your belt, the more you can charge. The better you are at it, the higher your rate should go. Like it just should get there. There's no cap if you find the right customers and you charge the right and you present your services the right way, which still is a whole different skill. And I almost like that's. People don't get that. Like people do what they do and they think like, oh, I'm just an editor, or I'm just no. Like you have to be a salesperson. You have to do all these other things in order to get that work to do the thing you do, or find someone else who's better to do it and pay him a commission and charge more.
Right.
Like you have to have these different functions.
Even then, you still got to be the OG salesman. You got to be like
you're
UPS.
The one that's going to lock it in the end.
You got to know how to drive that truck. You know what I mean? Like UPS, they make even the C-suite execs drive the truck like for a week once every 4 years or something. I'm sure that's totally incorrect. But like something so that they never lose touch with like, yeah, you drove a truck 20 years ago when the population was 40% less than what it is now. Like, do you know what it's actually like to drive a UPS truck in DC, bro? Probably not, right? Like, do you know what that really, And I love the fact that they like keep the boots on the ground and they always know what it is, right? And so, Katie Nelson, Sales Catalyst, she would love this conversation. But like, you got to learn how to love sales. And if you hate sales, then you shouldn't own a business, period. You should go work for somebody else because it's never going 100%. To work. Or if you hate sales and you're not willing to learn how to love sales, it's never going to work. You can hate sales. You just got to get over it. Because the second you land your $1,500 2-hour gig, you're not going to fucking hate sales anymore. You're going to be like, okay.
Yep.
But the other thing for me, because I don't like sales, but the way I approach sales, I change my mindset is I'm relating to people. I'm offering my experience to them in exchange for money. And so that is my approach to sales. I'm not out there like a car salesman, like, hey, got to, that's not what you're talking about either. But that's what people's minds go to when you think sales. You think about car salesman, you think about life insurance sales guy, you think about, spam calls and all that stuff. And that's not what we're
trying
talking
to reach
about.
you about your extended warranty sales guys. Yeah, man. Well, there's I have so many of these topics to talk about over the next like 12 weeks. Like I have this all mapped out.
I need it.
We can talk about it. We can talk about practical situations, how to actually set this stuff up, and how to tie that all in. Because I think all three of us bring very unique business experience to the table. And so I think that's along with the gear and along with the editing and the occasional shit talking about whatever various group is doing something stupid. I think that real value is what we're all bringing to the table, this experience in business that I think is what we're lacking in the podcast industry in general, right? And even though we're all very audio and video focused, I think the special sauce is
This might have been one of the most important podcasts ever.
Boom.
In the history of podcasts.
In the history of the podcast club, anyway.
And all other the podcasts.
Can we finish this episode by me getting your help, Molly? Because with my current workshops that I'm doing for Podcast Audio Lab, which are not a finished, shameless plug, which are not the end goal for me. This is part of my process, but I have people like Evo Terra and Brian Barletta saying, you need to charge way more. They're always encouraging me to charge more. This is way too cheap. Like they even posted on Twitter when they shared my link to my paid ones, which were $20. I'm doing once a month. But so here's the thing, this is why I need your help.
Okay.
My thinking for my live workshops I'm doing, I'm using these actually as my own laboratory to figure out what I'm actually going to do on my membership site, which I'm launching in September, which is part of the whole rebranding thing here. So I'm building the content using these workshops. I'm getting the live feedback from people with these workshops. I'm charging only $20 because I know that people, if I charge $50 or $100, I'm going to get 3 people show up. And I'd rather at this stage that I'm at before my membership site is launched to use that as my time. I'm investing my time to help people start to participate. So it becomes, I guess, like the whole exposure thing. But I need you to talk me out of what I'm doing.
Okay. First of all, why are you convinced that only 3 people will show up if you?
That's what I'm
more?
going to say.
Yeah,
I agree.
Because it
Charge
happened.
more.
It happened on one of the things that we did for Jen's
workshop. But it might have been that you didn't market it in enough time, or you didn't market it to the right audience, or whatever, right? Like that could be a fluke thing. I would also say that 3 people showing up who pay $150 is still better than 7 people who show up and pay $20. Just saying, and it's perceived value. I think the more expensive it is, the more value it is. And at the end of the day, even though you're like live workshopping this thing, that doesn't change the value that you're presenting. It doesn't matter what the mechanism is or the end result. You're still giving value to those people. So it doesn't make it any less valuable because you're going to also repurpose this content later.
What I'll also say is that the content that you go into is deep shit. It's not, this is not, you don't want $20 attendance people. They won't get it. No. And they're not going to come back for the next one. You should charge $150 for
Bing,
3
bang,
episodes and say, listen, this is a 3-banger, $50 an episode or a session, $150 up front. You're going to get this one, and this one, and we're going to cover these topics. And by the time you're done, you get a certificate that says, I'm a badass. Because those people will pay $150 for 3 episodes. You're going to do it every 2 weeks or once a week or whatever. You're going to have an email in the middle that tells them, like, a reminder, hey, here's a refresher. Like, you already have you've done the work. You have the content, and you have you have the content. Like, it's done. And I think that Molly's right. Like, the 3 people that are worth $50 or more probably.
Right.
Like, it's the wine thing. Like, the people that are going to buy $20 of wine don't appreciate $100 wine. You want people that appreciate the $100 wine because what you give is solid gold. Like, look at your shit.
Yeah.
Look at your setup. You want people that are going to see that and be like, whoa, is that an ATEM and an, like, you want them to see that and be like, what? Why are you using that for that? How do you dial your shit in? Because you have the experience of like, I want to use that shit. You don't want the person that buys the $29, like, and here's another thing. Everyone loves talking that, like, it's so good to use, like, a Samsung Q2U or an Audio-Technica. Like, those are cool microphones, but, like, that's not what you're using. That's not where you end up.
Yeah.
And it's a problem that's the go-to for everybody. Mm-hmm. It's a problem for me. I have a bunch of this shit, and you know what? They buy all this garbage on Amazon, and they think they get by, and then they think that's the thing, and they think they're a professional podcaster. No offense to the people that are using it, but when you're ready to play ball, like, you use it costs $2,000.
Right.
It costs $1,000 minimum.
Yep.
It just is what it is.
Yep.
And if it's going to be in a microphone or a microphone camera, like, whatever it is, you're going to spend close to $1,000.
Right.
Just to buy the gear. But by saying this is fine, and you can just record it into something and just hit record and just be done, like, go away.
Well,
you can charge more than that.
So let me give you guys my long game, because that's part of, and it's still shifting, but the place I'm at right now, I've already mentioned September, I'm launching a membership site. The membership site I'm going to be adding more and more content, but it's going to have tracks so that it's easy for, okay, I need to learn how to mix. I need to learn how to edit. I need to learn how to record. So all these videos, there's going to be some overlap between them. It's going to be hopefully easy to navigate and something you can go back to and refer to. But what I've decided to do is to do the quarterly membership fee thing, like model. So like the subscription model. So for 3 months minimum for X amount of dollars. You get the low end tier is going to be, I can't remember what I priced it at. It's going to be at least $300, something like that, for just the basic. I'm talking about like, I can't afford to spend $50 on a microphone. I want to learn how to podcast. That's the type of people I want to serve. But the main people I want to serve is the middle tier, which is going to be like $700 a month or for a quarter, something like that. And then there's going to be a yearly package too, so people can stay on. And and obviously, just like with my services, the more I build it, the more the prices are going to go up. Because when I start out, I'm probably only going to have a dozen videos. So expecting people to pay $400 for 3 videos, on their track or whatever that they actually want to see. So it's all part of the process. I know I'm selling myself short at this stage.
For the rates that you're asking, can you do monthly and then annually?
Yes. So here's my plan: is the price it's kind of like what I see some of the mastermind type groups doing, where the price is for the quarter, but you can do monthly payments. And so the price is for the year. You sign up, you're committed to this year, and then here's the payments to keep them.
I feel like
I want to make it accessible to people because I do
like
want to charge
monthly,
more.
charge monthly or upfront for a year, and then you give like a 10% discount if they like every SaaS product I see it's month to month, no contract, no nothing, because that's how you hook them.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
I can just get out of this right away.
Here's the thing. With what I'm teaching, it is so deep. You cannot sign up for 1 month and get what you need.
The entry level people can't get past the first month.
Here's the thing:
like the entry level people, like they can't get past the first. They want to pay $19 a month and see what's up behind the curtain, and then how much did you say the lowest one? $100 a month.
I'm having
for a quarter.
I'm still figuring it out, but yeah, right now I'm thinking $300 a month for the entry level. So $100 a month. Sorry, $300.
It's how you present it to on the page.
Yes,
like it's show the higher one, and then
yes, that's exactly it. Because I'm going to have a $1,500 one also that's for professional editors that want to get inside my brain. That's the thing, and this is something that Blair talks about with price anchoring from Two Bobs again. He talks about you have the super ridiculous high end price, you got the target price, and then you got the low end price that you hook people with, like, oh, that sounds good. But then once they get into the value of what you're providing, even before they see anything, just comparing them side by side.
Content, or is it different amount of streams they can watch per month? How do you limit what they can do?
It's with the Super Pass, I can say, okay, this membership only gets these first 2 introductory videos. The middle one gets these 4 videos on top of that. And then the pro level gets these additional 3 videos that go super deep. So it's that sort of thing.
I mean, okay, so
it's really
the first thing I
complicated.
would say is why aim at people who can't even afford a microphone? Because if they can't afford a microphone, they're going to look at a quarterly payment and you're going to lose them immediately. It's like
because podcasts sound like shit, and I want to change that.
Okay, well,
they won't even
they don't
watch.
Care, man.
They
That's
don't
not
care
your audience.
because they think they sound good. That's the problem. You already lost them. Once they buy that thing, they're toast. If the 10% that get beyond that, they're like, this sounds like crap. Then they find you, and that's not the people that I agree. I think you should really try and figure out, like, who do you enjoy, who do you really want to deal with.
You guys.
And who finds value in your ridiculous level of knowledge and depth that you're going to go into. It's the people that bought an MV7 and want to do better. So it's all they're already willing to drop $250 on a mic, $300 if they buy the stand and everything else. So they got that much money.
Yes.
They bought that microphone. They're ready to either do multiple things. They don't know how to do RSS feed or whatever, or like they want to take it a step further. It's a different person than the Q2U person.
And so this is the thing. I think I haven't explained it clearly enough. Is I am not going after the low end. So part of Jen's whole process with her marketing course and her coaching services she provides for authors is you find that ideal person like you're talking about. My ideal person actually exists. It's Jeff Sanders. We had him on the show last week.
Yeah.
He is who I am thinking of who I want to create content for. My whole thing though is with the membership site, I want to, as I'm creating it, I'm not targeting the low end, but I want to leave a door open for those people. I'm targeting the middle and the high end tier stuff.
You can't
But
do that. That's different marketing, man. It would leave what door open? If you're marketing to people like Jeff Sanders who can afford that, that's not.
But
That's different
Make it
marketing.
something that these low end people aspire to. Like let them.
that's
let them-
exactly what
let-
I'm doing. That's what
but
I'm
see,
doing.
I don't sell. I wouldn't do the cheap. I wouldn't do
Me
a
neither.
super cheap one. Or if it's super cheap, like
$300
it's
is super cheap for 3/4 for people who don't want to spend $50 on a microphone. That's
no,
already.
that's what I'm saying.
see,
No,
it's-
like
okay,
those
if-
two worlds don't intersect.
if
That's what I'm saying.
if $300 is the cheap course, it's still the same content. So it's like it's not
Yeah.
like you're providing like. That's why I'm saying like you're saying the right thing. I think, but I think that you're pitching it wrong. I don't
Right.
think you're pitching it to these people.
No, I'm not.
So that's the thing is like
I'm just
what it should
considering them.
be is it should be
I'm not pursuing those people in
it
any
should
way.
be what you're doing is the cheap course is like limited number of videos.
Yes, that's
a month.
exactly what I'm. That's exactly what
They're
I'm saying.
still skilled, but maybe they don't believe in the process yet. You want them to upgrade to the bigger program. I still don't know if that's going to work though, because like I don't know. Like I would be if it were me, and I'm going to jump into podcasting. Look, admittedly I'm not a podcaster. Like I don't do that on what you do, and I'm not pursuing it. But I would think that I'm looking for something that is going to give me constant value, and I can afford in my thinkings of it. Like I'd rather pay monthly than semi-annually or annually or whatever,
That's a
unless I
turn-off.
know I'm in this for the long haul,
Yeah.
and I'm going to get a 15% discount up front if I
Yeah.
pay you for a year.
Yeah.
That's money in the bank for you.
Right.
You can do whatever you
And
else
that's-
you want for.
Yeah.
And so you're doing $100 a month in the low end, and you're doing 220, 230, 250 a month on the higher end, which that's a lot of value. Like, but that's a lot of money to charge for a month. So like you gotta be able to like
to deliver.
tall
I've got to
order.
deliver it. Yeah,
That's a tall
exactly.
order.
That's exactly it. And that's the other
I mean-
part of it is I'm also easing into it because
how
I
many
have
people
a
do you
full.
think you can get? How many
I have
people are
a
you
full.
expecting?
I have a full roster of editing clients that I already manage. I also have a business that I'm running with my wife. And now I'm adding all this video content,
Which is
not just audio
exactly
content.
why you need to charge so much more and go for less people who pay you more and forget this cattle call idea. I don't like the quarterly thing either. Like that's just like I need to see some value first.
There are other people out there that do the low end of stuff. You're the next step.
You're the next step.
There are not people that do the low end stuff like what I am. That's the thing.
You can't sell Pintos and
YouTube-
Teslas on the same lot, my dude. You're you know what I mean? Like it's different marketing.
You gotta show us. You gotta show us how it's laid out,
It's-
because I think that you
it's-
might have something in your mind.
I have
that we're not
something in my
getting.
mind that I am not explaining well,
You need to
and
draw some
no one
picture
else,
and
no one
you
else is
show us the
doing what
scribble.
I have in mind. Yeah,
You need to
it's-
show us.
Well, might not be a good thing. They might not be doing it because it doesn't work.
and that's
You need to
Jen.
show us.
Jen
Okay.
pointed that out. But
I'm
there's
just
also
saying.
no one talking. There's no one instructing or talking about audio production in the podcast space like I talk about audio production. There are
I'm
other audio
intrigued
engineers.
to see what you're doing. I've
Yes.
seen some things. I agree that they haven't been done in a newer, fresher, cleaner, like service model. Like I've seen university style things, like online university kind of things that
I'm
go
looking-
deep, that go into the compressor mic blah, 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 too far into this world sort of thing.
Big bottoms everywhere.
I think that I believe in the model of what you're trying to do, and I think that there's something there. I
Yeah.
want to see. I want you to sell
There
me
is
on it.
something there
Sales.
for musicians.
This whole episode is sales.
Yes. Okay. So, but part of the sales process is figuring out what is sellable, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Everything, including my soul. Hit me up.
Puremix.net. Are you familiar?
Okay,
Yes.
hold on. Before we jump off this, though, I want to say this. I will say this. I feel like we can fine tune the details of your offers, right? But
Yeah.
so like we're not going to get hung up on that. But I will say this. I would not limit the amount that you charge or anything because of something that you are going to do later. I think that you should get as much as you can in the moment. And who knows, by the time you're ready to launch that thing, maybe you'll end up charging triple what you're like I would not don't lower your bar. Don't lower your rates because of something that will happen in the future. Because what if another pandemic hits and we all turn into the reptilian overlords that we all know we are? You know what I'm saying? Anything is possible. So I wouldn't because it's that same thing. You're my first client. I'm new. It's that same mentality of I'm going to charge less now because no, man, you're bringing value now. You're bringing value right now and you should charge for that. I think with all of this, right, the main point is that you should always be more knowledgeable than your clients, right? So you don't have to have 100 years of experience. You just have to know more than them, and you have to constantly know more than them. And so no matter where your experience is already here, you don't need to bend down to scoop into the pond, my friend. You already earned your dues getting yelled at by Christians and whatever, you know what I'm saying? You already did that. You done did that. You don't need to do it again. So I would just say, charge the real value, man. Once I started charging more for my classes, and then 8 people would show up, and I'd make $1,600 on a Saturday morning. I was like, okay, that's worth it. Doing the podcast 101 at Mindspace with 200 people in the room who maybe paid $5 each, or the ones I did for free. It was still the same amount of time. It was the least amount of money. I impacted 200 people in a room versus 8, but at the end of the day, I took more money home. And at the end of the day, it was the same information. It was the same value,
Right,
And so I would just say that, I don't feel like you need to cut yourself short now because of something that you're going to do later. And nobody needs to know. We're all guinea pigs in this game of life. You know what I mean? Literally, from the food we consume to we're all just figuring shit out. So I don't think you need to charge less while you figure out your model.
I'm too stuck on the fact that people price is a determining factor whether or not someone will listen to what I have to say. And I need to get over that, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I need to get it.
I agree.
I need to forget those people.
I think that's the real message with all this, is that there is a slight tolerance to the price thing, but I think that if you provide immense value, the price doesn't matter. We look at Gary Vaynerchuk, whatever, okay, 6-figure speaking engagements, you just asked for, you provided the level of value, you're there, you know what I mean? You can ask for what you want, you can get what you want out of it, you've already earned it, and the first time someone pays you that much money for it, you're worth it. You're worth it. And that's it. And then everyone else after that's going to be okay, I want to be like this dude and that dude. They went to this guy. You can be the guy that takes everybody from B level to A level because now they're getting it. And maybe you're focused on the people behind the scenes, whoever it is, you're providing something. You got to package it the right way. It definitely is the marketing side of it, but
that's part of my diversification.
$1,000 a year, $9.99 or more.
Part of my business, I want to be offering coaching, high dollar coaching services for editorial teams. Like Molly's team, I train.
That comes
for thousands of dollars.
That could be right. That could be very cool and come from this too.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't come from it. It's just this platform is reinforcing this guy knows his shit.
Yes, but it's going to come from it because you're going to have one of the people that is an editor for. I don't know what the services are, but one of these studios or whatever is going to take your course. You got to hit up these chunky these networks, you got to hit up these networks
that's exactly
that
what I have
through
in mind.
Podcasts and be look guys, your stuff is fine, but if you want to play with the big boys or girls, you got to play at this level. This is what you're missing the mark on, and then you get hired to talk to their whole team, and that's $4,000.
You got to be the with Molly. Dale Chihuly or Chihuly. What's that guy? Chihuly, the glass blower. He's does those crazy
those are wild,
right? He's the number one. You could go learn glass blowing at Nova or at the community college, or you could go to Chihuly. You should be the Chihuly of podcasting. You should be
Chihuly of audio.
Yo, I want to level up. Marcus is the guy, but the guy is expensive.
Chihuly about it. Yeah,
channel your Chihuly.
like Molly, what you're doing, helping business owners develop their business process, their sales process. I want to do that for audio production. It's about the process. It's about me helping them develop
So charge
their
a lot of
process.
money, because when I launch this
exactly.
course, it's going to be like $900, because I'm going to give you a blueprint on how to run a successful business. And if you do it, then at the end of it, you will have a business that makes you money, and you'll have your time back. And you'll probably come visit me in Costa Rica. You know what I mean? So I'm going to charge a lot of money for it because I'm doing it and I know it works. And I'm going to give you the entire blueprint on how to do it. And so I'm not doing a $200 course or a $500 course. It's going to be like $1,000. Mm-hmm. You want to make payments for over 6 months? No problem. I'll make it accessible for you. And you could always adopt the Chris Krimitsos thing and do a pay it forward, or do one scholarship, a cycle or whatever. Like you want to, scratch that itch. No problem. Pick one person, give it to them. Everybody doesn't need. And I just think that if you can't go to a Gucci store and then like get a $10 like watch band. Like, no, you walked into Gucci. There is no low option. Sorry. Like, and I don't think that's relevant. Like, for everybody wanting to start a podcast business who's editing, they're not Marcus DePaulo, who's spent 20 years in the industry. Like, this is not advice I would give everyone. This is advice that I'm giving you. Right. Yes. And so if you want to, if you want to be Gucci, which none of us want to be Gucci, but you know what I'm saying?
Like a little bit.
Okay, Adam. But like you gotta. That's what it is. Like, you can't go into Gucci and negotiate and haggle and get a cheaper version. You can't get a knockoff Gucci at Gucci. You know what I'm saying? So I think if you also want to,
be the Gucci.
Be Gucci, man.
Be the Gucci.
Be Gucci, man.
Yeah, like
you should make
like
t-shirts
creation.
that say be Gucci.
Be the Gucci.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's really where it is. You got to know your audience, right? That's why I don't produce podcasts about cats and shit and like murder mysteries, because like you can't afford me, but like businesses can afford me, and my rates are very reasonable for them. It's my target audience. So you can't market to people who want to buy Gucci, but then also sell the knockoffs. Like, it's just, like you can't do both. And so I get that people are doing that, and it might be working for them. But at the end of the day, like, it's better to have 10 clients who pay $2,000 a year than it is to have 100 who pay 50. Like, it just is. Like,
and I've got that with my editing work. This is like a side business I'm trying to build up that's tangentially related, but it's like I'm starting from scratch because it's a different audience. So
it is and it isn't, though, because all of those first people are going to come from your experiences and your relationships and maybe this podcast, and you know what I'm saying? Like, you just never know. So
yeah.
But this is cool. I love talking about this. I love like talking through stuff like this,
was
man.
A deep brainstorm. Yeah, this was great. Fired up.
What's next?
And I got it for free. I got free consulting here.
I know. No, free my ass. I have a billing department now. Yeah. I've already sent the link to your email. Yeah, no, I mean, I love this. I would love to do more of this. Even if people wanted to come on the show and talk to us about their podcast business, we could break it down.
Let's do it up. We'll beat the shit out of your
criticize your
website, and then kiss you on
website.
the forehead and tell you how to do business.
Then we'll pick you up and say things like, "See what you made us do." No, I'm just kidding. On that note,
Right.
Peace out. See you next week, where we talk about other important things on the podcast.